Hey guys, welcome back to day 3 of my solo queue and Irelia improvement arc. Today was a pretty rough day in terms of games. I had a lot of hard games, a lot of games that I misplayed in one way or another. Um, but overall, the VODs were really interesting. Today we're going to actually dive more into mid-game. As you'll see, especially recently, I'm just dominating pretty much every lane. I'm averaging like 2 or 3 solo kills per lane. Um, And so, it's kind of rough that I'm losing so many games. I have a pretty negative win rate on Irelia at the moment. So that kind of points to some problems with reference points, mid-game macro, something like that. Something I'm not doing correctly to kind of spread my lead to the rest of the map. So yeah, as for other things outside of League, I think today was I did. I felt like I wasn't really giving it my best in terms of everything. I feel like I could have eaten a bit more. The exercise was a bit outside my control. I went to the gym and I only was able to get a short session because it was closing at 5 when it says 7 on the website. So I got a bit screwed there. I only had time for half my workout. But yeah, today I'm gonna really try and make sure I stick to going to sleep at the right time. I only managed to go to sleep about 20 minutes past when I wanted to. So I don't want to let stuff like that slide. I want to try and build my habits as strongly and as effectively as possible. So I really need to make sure I stick to everything I say I'm going to do. But yeah, let's get into the reviews. All right, guys. So for the first review today, we're going to be skipping over Irelia versus Silas. That's going to be the featured matchup for today. So after you watch this video, make sure to check that out. I'll put a card in the corner of the screen so you can get there easily. But unfortunately today I only had 4 Irelia games, even though I played 7 games total. I think I'm going to need to figure something out with my secondary role because I got jungle a lot today, and obviously I don't want that to happen if I'm trying to learn Irelia. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get into Irelia versus Draven. Now, this was a bit of an odd game. Draven ended up getting a double kill at level 1. Um, I think, I don't know. I'm not going to look too much into this. I think it's kind of a waste of time. He did use barrier and flash, so I was able to get a solo kill on him uh, right here. Now, the 2 notes that I had for this, the first one was here. I actually didn't think this Q was going to land. I thought he sidestepped it. So I turned away. But usually if you land this E, you want to make sure you auto as much as you can before you consume the Q mark here to maximize your autos. And you'll see that actually really messed me up later on in this all-in because I have to flash now because I didn't get that one auto. Now, obviously here, if I did realize this E was going to land, I was going to go for the auto attack, but then I kind of turned back. But then, yeah, here I see, okay, the E lands, so I had to Q at that point. I could no longer get the auto attack. And then here, this was just atrocious auto spacing. I don't move on one of these auto attacks, so then I lose vision. He gets away, and I have to flash. So yeah, really poor. But the solo kill is good there, but it was just poorly executed. So for my notes for today, like I said, I really want to get into more of the mid game and have a look at how I can kind of expand my lead. And how I want my hypothesis for that is going to be limit testing in the side lane. And when I say limit testing, I don't mean doing crazy stuff, but I really want to kind of maximize my impact in each game by, like for example, this game. I'm coming out of lane quite strong. Not too strong this game, but definitely the other games. I'm coming out of lane quite strong. I think I'm not really fighting enough in the side lane, and I'm looking way too much for push and moves, and look, I'm just looking too much for plays in general, and you'll see that. This was my other note for lane phase. I mean, come on, this is just such obvious compensation. I'm really disappointed with these kind of mistakes because to me, this is just I'm just not holding myself up to a high enough standard when I'm making these mistakes. Because I know this, this is something that I've been through this so many times in the past, trying to cut out compensation. That's been a problem in the past, and for the most part, I typically don't compensate. So when it comes to plays like this, in my head, it's just like I'm not holding myself up to a high enough standard in the game. So really poor mistake here. The other uh, the other mistake, yeah, at 17:22, I make a massive blunder here. Um, Basically, what ends up happening is this game, Sion is an absolute nightmare to deal with as Irelia in the side lane. It's such a hard side lane matchup. So I wanted to match the Draven as much as possible. But what we see here is that so when Draven shows, already I want to try and swap here. But Nasus is dead right now. So what I should do here is I should just uh, give this Drake. There's no Sion's already opening on bot side. We can't fight this Drake anyway. We're quite behind as a team, and I don't even have R, and I'm so far. So this is just such a obvious example of just giving the Drake. Play for top tower here. Try and take top tower. Um, and yeah, just give this. We have 4 grubs anyway, so I can definitely get this tower pretty easily. And what ends up happening is I run here and I just fight I just fight here randomly and I pick up a kill, but I die. And this is just really terrible. I could have kind of expedited my snowballing here, and yeah, I just made a really bad call. So I think this kind of goes into a pattern that I've been seeing a lot in the mid game in the past 3 days, which is I'm just taking way too many fights. So I'm really going to lean more into playing in the side lane in the future. At least that's my hypothesis for now. So in the coming days, I'll test that more, taking more 1v1s in the side lane, pushing more towers, split pushing a bit more, and then being there for the really important fights. Because Irelia is a really good champion to push and move and be at fights, but you need to make sure you're at the correct fights. If you're just at every random fight, you're probably going to go behind an economy. Whereas if you're taking a lot of bot waves, you're getting bot towers, you're getting kills in the 1v1 and bot side, um, then you're then when you do come to the important fights, you're going to be so strong that you can just run over them. It's also worth mentioning that Irelia's current build right now is Bork into Kraken, which is a lot of damage, but it's incredibly squishy. And so that just naturally lends itself to fighting in the side lane. It's so hard to team fight with this build at 2 items. Later on, you do get tankier with Sundered Sky and Frozen Heart and these items that you can build. But at 2 items, you have a lot of damage, but you're really squishy. So I think this is an area that I've been missing, is that I'm not playing towards the identity of the build. And yeah, I think it's really important that I just try and side lane more. So yeah, we'll continue to look at this in the coming VODs. Okay guys, so this is VOD number 2. Something I should mention is that all these notes that I'm taking, I started on day 2. All of these notes are going to be in the description of the full VODs, and that's a playlist that you can find on my channel. I have all my full VODs uploaded there, so you can go and find them if you want access to all these notes. Now, this was another game where I came out of lane incredibly fed. What you'll see here is at 10 minutes, I had already solo killed the Kog'Maw 3 or 4 times, and I was just basically killing him on repeat at this point. So, and we won this game, but it was way too close. It was way too close for what it should have been, given how fed I was. And I think this is another game where, I'm playing against Camille and Kog'Maw. These are 2 champions. Camille's a bit harder to face in the side lane, but these are 2 champions that you can easily 1v1 in the side lane and look to play on side more. It's not like a Nasus that you kind of have to avoid. You can beat these champions very easily in a side if you're fed. But again, I think I played too much for fights this game, so we'll kind of have to take a look at that. Very early on, I believe that Kog'Maw had to. Oh yeah, here. Yeah, what happened was Kog'Maw roamed level 2. So I didn't anticipate that. He didn't end up picking up anything, and he had to burn his flash. So then here, what I did is I just crashed the wave, took a cheater recall with the wave on my side. Now I have an item advantage, and he has no flash. So I was looking for the all-in here. So I just hit a pretty standard QE, and I hold W on the wave here to just get some jumps. Now this was the first big mistake I made. Here, after I have this Q, what I should do is I should run down to make more space from the Kog'Maw passive, and then once I'm far enough away and he's about to explode, then I can Q onto this minion and onto this minion, and then I don't have to flash because how I queued, I'll show you. I just queued up here. I think part of this is they did change the Kog'Maw passive movement speed, and I didn't really anticipate take that into account. So he was a bit faster than I expected, and I had to flash there. But yeah, the next note was at 6:04. So yeah, here this is something actually really good to know, or at least try to do in your own games. When you take 1v1s that are pretty guaranteed, like in this fight, I'm level 6 to level 5. He has no sums, he has no exhaust, no flash. I can very easily win this. So what I should do in this situation is I should just try and make it fancier. Like what I should do here, auto Q Kog'Maw, Q here, do like a disconnected EE, Q up here, auto QQ, auto Q, like just make it as fancy as possible, because there's no way this play can go wrong even if I misplay, and it's just a great situation where I can practice. There aren't many like you can go into practice tool and kind of like work on the speed of your cues, but they don't really work to be organic. So it's much better if you can use these situations to practice a bit. Yeah. So then after this, I just ended up solo killing Cog a bunch of times. The next event was at 14 minutes. Yeah, so here, I just went. We saw Diana here, and I did go for a bit of a limit test, but I think I just played this poorly. I also forgot to factor in the exhaust on me, and this goes into something that another thing that I want to talk about with the mid game and the lack of reference points is I feel like when I don't know what I need to be doing, I'm much more likely to limit test and to go for crazy plays like this. Whereas when I'm very certain about what I need to be doing in any given game, I'm very on top of things. And I think when it comes to limit tests like this, I'm just not sure what I need to be doing. And in this case, looking back into the game, from a macro sense, there wasn't really any game plan that I had that I thought, okay, this is what I need to be doing. So then I just see this random limit test and I just go for it. What I should be doing here is just chilling. They're going for a bot play. Right now, no one's around me. I mean, we know Diana's here, but with the exhaust, it's kind of hard to win this. I do win this if this Q executes, but obviously with the exhaust, it's not executing, and that's what I needed to take into account. But yeah, I just this is just to me an example of a moment where I really need to work on my reference points and think about what I need to do in any given game. Then the next moment was here. I believe this was this was the TP top. This is just again a really bad TP and a great example of me kind of taking too many fights when I need to be staying in the side lane more. Here, we did a good job of getting grubs. We have 5 grubs as a team. We see Kog'Maw mid and we see Camille on top. Why the hell am I TPing away from bot here when I can just continue to get push bot and just easily take a tier 2 tower here? And if not, if let's say I push this bot, Diana shows up. I just kill Diana. Look how much damage I have at this point. I can 1v1 anyone who shows up in the side lane right now. It makes no sense for me to be teleporting away, especially when I'm on bot side here because I want to be on the side of the objective here. So why am I teleporting away from the side of the objective? This just makes no sense at all. I need to be, this is again a situation where I need to be stricter about my reference points. And in this case, those reference points for the foreseeable future are going to be to play more in side lane and just, try and win in sides rather than just going for every fight that I see. Now, the final one was this. And this is again another example of just having low standards. So what we see here is my whole team reset and comes back onto the map. What I want to do here, I push out top. What I want to do here is control Baron vision because Baron is going to be the next objective. I believe we had taken Drake very recently, so for the next 3 or 4 minutes, Baron's going to be the next objective here. We're very strong as a team, so if we can control this Baron vision, it's really good. Here, I'm looking at my Thresh. I see that my Thresh is far, and in my head, I know, don't face check this. This is really bad to face check. I need to wait for my Thresh. You can see I'm pinging him here, and I'm aware of how far he is, but I'm just not holding myself up to the standard of saying, okay, I cannot walk in here yet. I have to wait for my Thresh, which I know. I know that I have to do that. I'm just not holding myself up to that standard of really making the play I know is correct instead of just going for these random like face checking plays. So yeah, another great example of a terrible play. And here we could have easily lost the game off this. Diana gets a kill off me. Two of our teammates die, and we lose Baron off that. So that was a really game-losing play. But yeah, let's go on to the next review. Okay, guys, so for the final review of the video, we have a game of Irelia versus Ahri. This was another game where, again, I looked way too much to join the team and take random fights when I should have just been playing more on the side, in my opinion. So I'm playing Irelia versus Ahri. This is another game where I solo killed her, I believe, 3 times this game. I picked up a kill off Darius. I'm coming out of lane, 4 kills, 9 CS per minute. This should be so easily carryable, especially because the enemy team is not that hard to play against. I feel like it's pretty doable if I'm fed. If I'm a bit weaker, it's a really hard game, but if I'm this fed, I'm winning both side lane matchups, so it should be pretty easy from that perspective. But again, I just took way too many random fights. So let's go ahead and jump into the first note that we have here. Yeah, so at 13 minutes into this game, I missed a very obvious fact that Thresh was mid here. So what happens here is basically 2 days ago, I reviewed a game where I ended up dying because Thresh was hovering the ADC in the side lane, and it was a pretty fed Samira, and I gave her a big shutdown, and we lost the game off it. And in this situation, this was another example of where I felt like, okay, if Saya's hitting the tower like this, there's a very good chance Thresh is behind her here. Now, the difference here is that about 30 seconds or a minute ago, I had just blown the Xayah R. So right now, even if it is 2v1, even if Thresh is there, I can just fight. I don't need to be scared. I can just limit test 2v1. And this is another example of where you can have a lot of impact in games where you're strong by just fighting multiple members in side lane if you're that strong. And in this case, Thresh wasn't here, and so if he was here, I just missed a double kill. If he wasn't here, I just missed a single kill plus tower platings. So this is a really big missed opportunity. I could easily just, play Fog of War here, run up, Q here, and then Q to these ranged minions like that. And this is a free kill. But yeah, I just, I'm not in that mindset of playing in the side and taking these fights in the side lane. Okay. Then here, yeah, we take a pretty good fight here. I think this is completely fine to do. It was very close. Vi ends up dying, and we kill the E and I get the wave. Now, this is just a situation where we're taking this massive fight where everyone's getting low. This is such a pressure magnet for people to respond to this play. Obviously, I have to base here, and in my head, I know I have to base. But again, I'm just not holding myself up to that high standard of just saying, okay, you know the correct play is to base here, just base. Do what you think is the correct play. Um, instead of just hitting the tower here like a complete NPC. And I give, again, 766 gold to the Darius, who ends up being a real problem for me in team fights, and it's because of this. The next one was at 1615. Let me go to that note. Yeah, here, I think this was a pretty good window for me to lane swap with the K'Sante. Basically, I want to be able to limit test in side lane, and take fights in sides, and I'd rather be against that the Ahri than the Darius, just because I can deal with Ahri way more easily than I can deal with the Darius. I can deal with both. I could probably still kill Darius even after that kill I gave him, but I'd much rather be versus the Ahri. And we see K'Sante reset here, and Drake is gone, so I think I should already be pinging on my way top. I think bot's fine here also, just because of the HP of that tower, and I do have TP, so if my team wants to take Herald, that's fine, but I still think the better play would be taking, just rotating top here. Now, the final play here is I wanted to, for some reason, I'm just, actually not for any reason, not for any reason in particular, this is just me being just lacking knowledge and being able to read the map. So here, we know Herald's the next objective for 4 minutes, and bot tower's low. So what I want to do here is I just want to go solo bot, and either, because we also know Darius has a ghost and not TP. So if I go bot here and Darius has to react to me bot, that means that we could potentially play for Herald, and I can TP and we can take a man advantage fight. Or we give Herald, Darius goes to Herald to secure it, and I get 2 waves and a tower. But here I call Soraka for no reason when I should just be solo here. And like we see Darius is top. This is a situation where I could take this tower, the next wave as well, and I could even start hitting the next tower if there wasn't a TP window. But for some reason I'm calling Soraka to be bot here, which just makes no sense given the game state. And because of this, now Soraka's just, a bit of a, not to be rude, but a bit of a D4 NPC, and she's following my calls. I mean, that's the stupidest thing I've ever said. Of course, like, if I make calls, it's because I expect people to follow them, so it's my fault for making the bad calls. But yeah, she's now on the wrong side of the map because of my calls, and now I end up, the so-called NPC is even right. Like, she pings the tower. Why don't I just take the tower here? And what I do is I just TP again, taking these random fights instead of just accelerating myself in the side lane. So yeah, I think it's just really obvious what I need to work on going forward. So yeah, let's go to the conclusion. Okay, guys, here are the conclusions of today. I'm pretty happy with them, honestly. I think I learned a lot today, and if I didn't learn a lot, at least I have a pretty good hypothesis of how I want to play moving forward. So for the first conclusion, hold yourself to a high standard. It's so important. Just try and make the optimal play. Don't get lazy and just do what's in front of you. If you think, you see the correct play, go for it. Don't just make random plays because they're easier than what you think is optimal. Now, this is a different thing from knowing what the optimal play is. A lot of the time, I don't know what the optimal play is. So if I make a mistake, then it's more my fault for not knowing what the optimal play was. It's not really about the standards, but when I do know what the optimal play is and I'm making a random play, that's me not holding myself up to a high enough standard. Then play more through sides. I think this is going to be my mid-game hypothesis going forward, unless obviously it does differ game to game. There are going to be some games that are you're so ahead and it's so easy to win fights that you can just steamroll the enemy team at objectives and you can just push waves and hover mid, sure. But even if I'm coming out of lane 4 kills, I still need to keep accelerating into the side lane. I can't just like taking one wave and then hovering mid is the bare minimum in terms of gold income. That's not accelerating, that's just keeping up with the game pace. I need to be going further than that. I need to be finding 1v1 kills in the side. I need to be um, you know absorbing pressure from the enemy team. I need to be taking towers and taking camps and getting all that gold. So yeah, I think that's really going to be my main hypothesis going forward. I think in combination with this, my tracking is going to need to get better. I'm going to need to this some downside because if you're going to play more through side, you really need to be aware of what's going on and who can be there. I'm not. Let me be clear. I'm not taking flip fights in side lane. I'm taking very calculated fights in side lane that benefit the chance of winning the game. I'm not just going there and doing crazy limit tests. And then finally, be okay with trading off objectives. This is kind of similar to the second conclusion, but this conclusion, yeah, there were two games today where I could have easily traded off the objectives. The first game versus the Draven, I could have traded off Drake, and the second game versus Ahri, I could have traded off Herald and gone bot tower. So yeah, I think pretty clear-cut conclusions there. Yeah, so for tomorrow, I'm really going to make sure to try and stick more to my schedule and what I'm trying to achieve. I didn't really do anything wrong today. Like, I did everything that I needed to. I ate a good amount of food. I went to the gym. I got my 7 games. But I don't feel like did as much as I could today to make it as good a day as possible. And so, yeah, that's what I really want to try and achieve every day. So yeah, if you have any questions, my Discord's down in the description, or just leave a comment. Yeah, thanks for watching.